All right, Joe Sullivan joining us now. He is the Assistant Athletics Director for Development. Joe, thanks for being on. How are you?
I'm doing great, Coop. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. So we're going to jump into a lot of talk about Xavier NIL, and of course, the All for One Fund is a very important aspect of that. Can you kind of explain what your role is, what you do day to day with the All for One Fund?
Sure. Yeah. No, it's athletic development. So what we do is we raise money for the athletic department for our teams, programs. We have a team of four. It's myself, Seth Breitenstein, Stephen Crossman, and Shay Davidson. And the four of us, our main goal is to raise as much money as possible for all our varsity sports. Um, Now, it's kind of shifted a little bit recently. We are now paying players directly for um, men's basketball and women's basketball. And so they recently created my position about 10, 11 months ago. And that is my main role, try to generate new money, new funds raised for our men's and women's basketball.
So, how long? I mean, just from a personal standpoint, obviously you were at Xavier when I was there when I was playing, so I've known you for quite a while now.
Oh, yeah.
But just from on a personal level, where were you at before you came back to Xavier? Like, where have you been since like that 2012, 2014 time?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I'm a 2014 graduate of Xavier. I did 1 year as a graduate assistant coach, working for Chris Mack in 2015. I then got a job at Harvard as director of basketball operations, and I took that job part and due because I'm born and raised in Boston. I spent my whole life outside of college, and that one grad year in Boston, in Massachusetts. So I took that job. Then I pivoted. I pivoted to football. I became a football recruiting intern for Boston College, and then got promoted a few times. Eventually, became the director of player personnel and head of recruiting for Boston College football. And so I did that for 6 years. Had a great time doing that. Then we had our first child around COVID time, and wanted to figure out long term deal. I wanted to eventually become an athletic director, and I talked to a number of different mentors, and they all said, hey, get into development. That's probably the best way to become an athletic director. If you can show that you can raise money, then schools are always going to need that. And so I worked at BC as a development officer for a couple of years. Then got an opportunity at the Boys and Girls Club of Boston. Kind of an elevated position. It was a good situation for me. I got my weekends back a little bit to hang out with the kids. Then this position opened up at Xavier, this assistant athletic director position. And Xavier being my alma mater, I kind of had a calling to it. I don't know. I just had a gut feeling that I should take this job.
Right.
You know, Boston is a higher cost of living, but I took a significant pay cut to come work at Xavier because I love it so much. I met my wife here. I met wonderful friends like you, Kenny, here. Griffin McKenzie was in my wedding. Brad Redford was in my wedding. I've attended a number of different events. We have a mutual friend, Joe Hughes.
He's been on the podcast before.
Yeah, big money guy. He's going to soon be a donor of Xavier. We just need to get him on board. So
yeah, we'll get him. We'll get him eventually.
Talk to Joe Hughes. He's a big money guy. He's got plenty of cash, and he'll be supporting us here soon. But yeah, no. So got married. 3 kids later. Had a great time in Boston. And then we moved to Cincinnati. We now live in the Hyde Park area, and we love it.
Man, that's a hell of an 11 years, I'll tell you. It's a lot of different moving parts there. That's awesome. But I mean, obviously, I can't even remember when it was that you came up to me and you were like, Kenny, what's up? And I hadn't seen you since I graduated. And I was just like, what the hell are you doing here? And you're just telling me a little bit about, you're working at Xavier and stuff. But, I think that we talk about this all the time from a Big East perspective, how special the conference is for basketball, just because, obviously it's all basketball all the time. But Xavier in particular, how it just kind of, it reels you in and brings you back, because there's such a feeling of like family. I know that's kind of cliche, but like you really do feel that. And when I go back to Xavier, it's like I just graduated. Like I just played there a couple years ago. I mean, everybody is still like, it's all in, and especially now, with what's happened, people are kind of looking back to the glory days a little bit, and
Sure.
having been a part of for 4 years of that time between like 2008 to 2015, when Xavier was really like, I went to 3 Sweet 16s. We had all that success. We had a 1 seed, which is just wild to think about as when you look at what Xavier was in the 90s. But it just really brings people together, and it makes you fall in love with it, because there's such a love for basketball in the city, and especially around the university. So I'm super happy to have you back, because, it's always good to get somebody in a position like that actually loves the place. You're not just there for the job, you're there because you love it.
Well, and I appreciate you mentioning that, because working in fundraising, I work with a lot of donors, a lot of people with opinions, and they talk about coaches leaving. And I respect, hey, why didn't this guy stick around? Why did this guy take this job for this money or this situation? But like you said, whenever you come back in the Cintas Center, whenever you come back on campus, you feel Xavier. And really that's the people who graduated from here, and the people who have been season ticket holders for a long time, those people are Xavier. Mm-hmm. That's really like what it's all about. It's about, Coop and Cap and Kenny and Joe. It's like, the feeling that you get when we're going crazy. We're at Dayton, we just beat Texas, to go into the first round of the NCAA tournament. It's like, that's all Xavier. Some people, they may come and go. We'll always, I know we can find some kindness to invite those people back, and know that they're a part of it. But it's Xavier in itself. It's like, what defines Xavier? Mm-hmm. It's the community that we built through success of basketball. I mean, Mario Mercurio, he just sent me a stat lineup, and it was or a stat sheet, and it said, over the last, I think, like 30 years or so, we're the 9th winningest program in college basketball. It's like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like the amount of, we talk about Sweet 16s and those, like how games ended, but it's like from game to game, like we're winning, That's really the culture that was built from Bob Stack and Pete Gillen, Skip Prosser, Chris Mack, Sean Miller, and everyone in between, Travis Steele, and now Richard Pitino. I mean, this is, this thing is a really cool thing, a part of, and something that I knew from a distance Xavier basketball won. That's why I ended up applying to Xavier. That's how I got here. Mm-hmm. But I mean, to really like get on campus and know, like, hey, they do things the right way. They invest and they care about it, and it's really, it puts a lot of great exposure on the university.
Yeah, and I think the brand is only going to get bigger. Obviously, it's been built up for decades, but with Richard Pitino now, I think just nationally, this brand is going to keep growing. And you mentioned talking to donors and stuff like that, and I'm sure you're on the phone all the time talking to boosters, to donors, to whoever. But there might be a lot of fans listening to this that are kind of a little bit unfamiliar with All for One Fund. I'm sure most people have probably seen advertisements around Cintas Center or on GoXavier.com, but I think a lot of people might not really know that they can directly donate to All for One Fund and spend their money or donate their money to Xavier and to Xavier basketball directly. Can you kind of speak on that, just to kind of give a sense of direction if someone's listening that wants to do that, how they would do that?
Sure. Yeah. No. I think if Xavier athletics are the heart of Xavier, then the All for One Fund is the blood. It's like we need to get the heart pumping and fuel these programs, fuel these student athletes, put them in a position where they can be successful. We've done a great job of investing in our sports throughout the year. So there are plenty of schools that they shy away from that. They focus solely on academics, and they look at athletics as an afterthought. This is a huge part of what Xavier does. So when we fundraise, we look at the bigger picture. We want to make sure that we're competitive. The four pillars of Xavier Athletics. This is Brian Hicks, he just shared with me. 4 pillars of Xavier Athletics are accountability, respect, integrity, and competitive excellence. That last one, competitive excellence, like we really mean that here. Kenny, I know you felt it as a player here. It's first rate, everything we do, and so we want to continue that and make sure that that's, those opportunities are given to a number of student athletes. That's why we raise money to get scholarships. We raise money so that the players can travel. They have, I remember sitting with Kenny on a balcony looking over at Waikiki Beach in Hawaii. It's like the ability to do that is because of the investment made by the university and by our donors. Those opportunities are not always available. These guys, they've given their, the guys and girls have given their blood, sweat, and tears to this program. We want to make sure that they're well taken care of, and that we do it first rate, and we can recruit the premier athletes here at Xavier.
That was I'm sure that the vast majority of big programs when I was in school were probably flying private. But I don't think that most of the A-10 was. I don't think that most of those, quote unquote mid-major schools were. And the way that Xavier went about their business on a day-to-day basis during the season was always so much higher of a station than what maybe outsiders might think of with a small university like Xavier is. And that was one of the main reasons that I wanted to go to Xavier, was because, the facility, like you look at Cintas Center, and it is like, Cintas Center is, and obviously I'm biased, but like it's number one for me, even back then. And when you look at coming back, I'm sure I don't know if you kept up with the updates of Cintas Center from the time you left till you came back now, but like, all that stuff happened when I was overseas, and I didn't really get to come back to any games or do anything. And then I came back, and the weight room, the training room, the way that the Ox gym is now with those big glass windows, and just all that stuff. It was insane to see the amount of investment that they put into the program. And I think that anybody that's being truly objective about Xavier as a whole would be able to tell you that as the basketball team goes, the university goes. You see a lot, like every single time me and Cap were looking this up a couple years ago. And it's like Xavier goes to the Sweet 16, enrollment's up. Xavier goes to the Sweet 16, enrollment's up. It's just like, and I think that really finding that balance of making sure that your team is good and putting as much as you can into that, and also growing the university, obviously, but having the basketball team be good and sports be good is such a huge driver to get kids to come to Xavier.
Yeah, and that's something, you mentioned the facilities. We all would walk around and be like, hey, we have to, anywhere you're at, like you come to a game, it's like, hey, let's meet in the Joseph. You see the Colhep name on the court, the Cleat Camp gym. It's like all these names, all these individuals, the Sedler family. It's like all these individuals, all these people, they helped make that happen.
Yeah.
Without them, hey, we do a great job of putting on a great event and selling tickets and selling merchandise and popcorn and beer and all that. And, we do well in that. But really, the thing that moves the needle is donations, So that's why it's so important that we have the All for One Fund, that we have individual.
So if you have a person that's just, they want to donate $100, is like that you can just go to the All for One Fund on Go Xavier, or where do you go for that to do that?
Yeah, exactly. GoXavier.com, and there's a donate button, and it'll lead you right to it. Pretty intuitive.
So
we try to make it as easy as possible.
Right. But I think that something that is confusing for a lot of people, because I know that even with all the information that I have about it, I'm still a little bit fuzzy on like people that are donating to Final 2%. They have their monthly subscriptions or whatever they're doing. Like I know I still have a monthly subscription to that. Is that going to the same place? I know it. Okay.
Yeah, it is, but we want to shift it over to the university. It just makes it cleaner. There are less credit card charges.
Right.
Like there shouldn't be any credit card charge. We have a gift processing team that does a great job, and then it's just easily tracked. And now final 2% doesn't need to send a check over
Right.
to it. Like that's
Okay.
so we're trying to shift everyone over to the university just to have a cleaner uniform. We can track it all that way. So I'm trying to call and reach out to as many people and tell them that. But yeah, all that money that is going to final 2%, we will still get. But we want everyone, if you can, set up a new subscription on it. This is a Give Campus page. Maybe when you guys post, I'll put on a link to it. But and then you can stop your final 2% subscription. Final 2% is still going to be around for other commercial true NIL avenues. But as far as revenue share, as far as what we call a roster development, we can pay the players directly now.
Yeah.
Getting it all through
So, so what does NIL look like? On a national stage, I don't know how much you can speak to that, but on like Xavier in particular, and how maybe they're different than some of the bigger schools, or like is most of the money now coming from the school, or are there still players that are getting like massive NIL deals outside of the school?
Sure, there's still players getting massive NIL deals, but they've set up NCAA has set up a third-party Deloitte group called NIL Go that checks to make sure that the deals are legitimate. So if a local car dealership says, hey, you just make one post and we'll give you $1 million, that'll get shut down. About 80% of those deals have been shut down.
Okay.
The ones that get through, these Fortune 500 companies, these these publicly traded companies, most of those get through just because they have a responsibility to those shareholders. I think actually all of those go through, but few and far between. Like if you're in a if Skyline wants to do an ad, they'll go to Joe Burrow or Jamar Chase before they'll go to Kenny Freeze or
right.
whomever.
Which is a mistake. We'll see.
Yeah, and he could be 20 more Conies than any of those guys.
Right, exactly.
But no, that's so that's I'll add on to that. There's going to be a cap here soon. It's going to go into effect next year. It's going to be $20.5 million for each athletic department. That $20.5 million will be the schools will be able to distribute it. Now, do we think that we will be able to raise $20.5 million to use? Probably not. I hope so. I'm going to keep trying.
If they'll build a statue of you if you do.
Yeah, it would be great. That would cost too much money. I would sell it and put it back into the rev share. But no, if we get $20.5 million a year, then we can spend it all on basketball. There are football schools out there that are going to spend the lion's share of that 20.5 on football.
Right.
Because football is their main sport on campus, just like basketball is to us. So we have an advantage, coming year from now. So we got to make sure that we fill up the pot as much as possible so that we can capitalize. Now, the one thing that we have kind of a disadvantage now is within the Big East, because we're in the bottom half in funding in the Big East, and we've throughout all of history, we spoke to it. Xavier's always been in the top half, but we've had different schools and different individuals and different donors at those schools make a larger investment than us, and we want to change that. And so that's our main goal, is to try to get us. We want to be number one in the Big East in funding. And if we are, then we're in the best shape to win. If you're in the bottom half, it's tough to get in the top half. That's just kind of the nature of it right now. If you don't have talent, you can't win. No matter, Coach Pitino's going to do a tremendous job here, and he will elevate our players. And we have a good team right now, but being in the bottom half, it's really hard to get in the top half for wins.
Yeah, I appreciate all your clarity, because I do feel like I don't think it's an unfair thing to say at all that this has been the biggest sweeping change in college basketball I've ever seen, and it's very fast. And I'm wondering, from like someone on the inside's point of view, how quickly things are changing and kind of how Xavier positions himself. Like, how have you guys looked at this Because I know as a college basketball fan, like this is such a sweeping change to
Yeah,
go.
no, I agree with you. In a lot of ways, it's frustrating. I wish that we
It's
could have.
very little regulation as well.
Yeah, no, and I think that slowly but surely they're adding more regulation, and they're, the salary cap is a huge first step
Yeah.
in doing that, and we'll see what it morphs into in the next few years. But right now we have a great opportunity because we're at a school that wants to invest in basketball. We just need to find a way to come up with the money to do it.
Right.
We just and if we can, there's no, if someone says, hey, I want to donate $10 million a year, there's, Dr. Hanish, Craig Christopher, anyone, no one's saying, hey, whoa, no, you're sending it to the business school, the nursing school, or something like that. Donor intent is very important here. If an individual wants to donate to Xavier basketball, it's going straight to Xavier basketball, and that'll elevate our roster and give us more of an opportunity. And like I said, this is a great time for us. The time is now. It really is, and we just need to get more people bought into that. Sooner the better. The sooner we know what money we have, the better it is for coach and his staff to look at the transfer portal, those 6-8 weeks, whatever it is, and be like, hey, we have the money to do this, and so we feel good about that. And we have a great brand, great support, great academic school. We're a Jesuit Catholic school. That's a niche type thing. We have great facilities, as Kenny alluded to. So it's not like, hey, we're trying to raise money for the roster and we need to build a new basketball arena. We
Right.
have that.
That's
Yeah.
the
Hey,
The infrastructure's there.
infrastructure's there. If we can get to really the number, if we can just get to that the top 1, 2, or 3 in the Big East, we feel like we can do everything we want. We can achieve things that have never been done before.
Can you speak a little bit to like how big the hill is to climb? Like where we're looking as far as the pecking order in the Big East? Like how far do we have to go from your perspective?
Yeah, like I said, we're in the bottom half. It's tough to get the exact numbers from the other schools. So like for me to say, what number we are compared to others, it's tough. But it's attainable. We're far off this year, but in future years, I feel confident that we will be closer. We are a small. I think we have 75,000 living alumni. We have undergrad around 4,000 or 5,000. A lot of these schools have more than that, and they have had people make massive investments. We all know about St. John's and their massive investment, but we need to get, like Kenny said, the $100 donors, the $1,000 donors, 20. We need to find those people and group them together and understand that it is an investment, but you're making more of an impact than you ever have.
Right.
I mean, there have been times where probably not Kenny. Kenny's a bad example. When you were playing in games and dunking balls, and you were making an impact. But for speaking to the fans and the supporters and the graduates, it's like, hey, there are times that you cheered really loud. It's like, hey, that helped us win. That was great. You were supporting us, but now you can help us acquire the best players.
Right.
Yeah. So that's really cool maybe it's some people listening to this or will see this clip on social media or something that can actually make a difference. And I'm on my phone right now. It is really easy to get to. Just Google All for One Fund or go to goxavier.com. Click donate. You can click on Athletics Excellence Fund. Men's basketball, women's basketball can donate directly to them. Other sport-specific support, women's soccer, men's soccer, it's all right there. Really easy, and can type in your donation amount. So if you're listening and feel inclined to, help us get to that upper half of the Big East, which it sounds like it's going to happen at some point, go ahead and do that. But also, I think kind of winning and NIL are kind of going hand in hand right now, where you can't have one without the other. And if Xavier isn't there right now, I think it's very clear that they've made the right hire. I know he hasn't coached a game yet, but just listening to the way Coach Pitino carries himself and talks about Xavier and the brand and the position the Big East is in, Like, I listened to his radio show he did a couple weeks ago, and we talked to Paul Frischner afterwards too. It sounds like the vision's very, very clear. There's a reason he took this job, turned down a lot of other jobs, and maybe he doesn't have the roster that he's trying to build yet, but he's building it. These players are going to be around. I mean, look at the teams he had at Minnesota and New Mexico, both very tough jobs. He's been to 4 tournaments. So in the Big East now, more support, at least compared to those 2 teams.
Right.
And
kind of a stomping grounds.
Just getting started. So
and I think that a big point that needs to be made. Well, there's 2. Number one, last year when the past couple years when we've been trying to, push final 2% and all this stuff, that grassroots, finding the smaller donations with larger numbers of people, it's obviously one of the harder things to do. I mean, the bigger donations, you're going to get them from people that are, super wealthy and really want to support the university, and they feel like they're making an immediate impact. And that, $10, $15 a month might not feel like you're doing anything, but with, like you said, 75,000 living alumni, if every one of those people are giving $100 a year, $8 a month,
you're talking people. If you looked around and said every single person's doing, even, and I think too, it's interesting. You look at businesses. There's a reason they do a subscription model. I mean, it feels much easier to give Netflix $20 a month than it does to give them a straight up 400, whatever. So I think it's interesting to hear like what the initiatives are to raise money and to kind of make this matter. Because also too, for the average fan, this is such a sweeping change. Like. This was never been a thing. It's like you support the team by going to the games, buying season tickets.
Well, and that's the kind of my second point here is that I think that for a long time this has been true, and it's more difficult now than it's ever been. But Xavier's always done more with less.
Correct.
And I feel like in today's day and age with NIL, rev sharing, all that stuff, it's that hill to climb of doing more with less is so much more difficult than it used to be, when it was all about recruiting, finding Xavier guys, the guys that are going to buy into the program and be there for 4 years and really develop into the person that they're going to be. I mean, you look at guys like Jason Love. I mean, he was a guy that came in and they, I still remember them talking to me about it when I was getting recruited and like what he was as a freshman and what he turned into as a senior. Yep. Jamal McLean was similar. I know that he transferred in, but it's just crazy seeing the way that Xavier's been able to develop players. But now you're looking at getting these players sometimes for 1 year, and how much developing can actually happen when a guy's coming in from the transfer portal and getting to school in June or July, and then all of a sudden he's in the transfer portal again in March. It's like there's not much development that's going to go on in that 8, 9, 10 month period. So it really that money is just, unfortunately, that's where we're at today. And if Xavier fans want to see the team get back to the levels that they were at 10, 15 years ago, we're going to have to do more as a community.
Right. And I know, Kenny, you're a big Vikings fan. If the Vikings called you up and said, hey, we want to really, we need to get this defensive back, and you give $100 to help us get this defensive back and help us win the Super Bowl.
Right.
Like, oh, yeah,
sure, 100%.
Coop Cat, I don't know, are you guys Bengals fans?
Unfortunately,
Xavier all the way, baby.
Hey,
just
Bro needs a new toe. Give
the
me
Bengals
exactly. So that's the point. Like you mentioned, Jamal McLean or it's C.J. Anderson, Travis Taylor, Matt Steinberg. Those are all transfers. Jordan Crawford. It's like all this. If Sean Miller or Chris Mack or whomever, Coach Patino calls you up and says, "Hey, I need your help getting this guy," what would you say to that?
Right.
What do you need me to do? I'll get in the blue blob.
Exactly. We are saying that to you.
I'll liquidate Kenny's Pokemon card collection right now.
Right. Right. So it's like, those 75,000 alumni, just 2,500 donate to athletics.
Yeah.
Right.
We need to raise that number.
And I
because
think
I'm sure there are more, like you said, there are 10,000 fans in the Cintas Center. We just need to get up those 10,000. If we get those 10,000 invested, then we'll reach the number we need to reach.
And that's been my argument.
Do everything, you guys will all be there cutting down the nets, and you'll be like, hey, I was a part of that. I helped make that happen. And we'll do everything in our power to cut up that net as much as possible to divvy it up 10,000 ways.
I won't know the difference between the real net and
give me a fake net. It's fine.
If someone called me up and said, hey, we need $100 to get this player, to keep this player, whatever, I mean, I fell for one of those scams where it's a picture of a celebrity and it's like, hey, this is Jay-Z. I'm in your city and broke down. Can you Venmo me $50?
It was worth
Like,
a shot, though.
yeah, and I'm like, how do I know it's real Jay-Z? And he's like,
Well, hey, if anyone wants to come and donate in person, I work at the Cintas
Can
Center.
you take cash donations? That's a good question.
Yeah, I'll take cash donations. I'll make sure it goes to the right place. I promise you. I won't.
We have a giant check in the basement. Can we give you one of those?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah. Be great.
Then this is my last unserious question. Can we get Joe? We should do this, Kenny. We can do a segment of Joe Hughes doing like financial education for our listeners. So that way we can start some bluegrass roots of.
I may share Joe Hughes' number so everyone can call and ask him.
Let's just drop it right now. And
Oh man, Joe would change his number in 14 minutes. Oh, dude.
Education 101 with Joe Hughes.
Joe does this wonderful thing that when any of my teams, I'm a Boston sports fan, when any of them get eliminated, he calls me and just pretends like, hey, I'm just calling to catch up. It's like immediately as they get eliminated.
So I think this is fair then.
Yeah. I've blocked his number like 20 times.
That's just good sense.
You got to do it.
But is there maybe anything that maybe we didn't hit that you would just like? Because I think there is just a lot of like casual fan confusion, I think, overall. And I think the more clarification we get from this and the more people see just how crucial this is, I think the more buy-in that we will get. So I think that's kind of why we wanted to do this as well. We appreciate you giving the clarity as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. If
everyone cares about Xavier winning.
Right. If you donate to Xavier basketball, that will go to getting the best players. And if the best players come here, then we will win games. And then you will be happy. The school will be better. You will, good things will happen. That's as straightforward as I can get. There are other schools that are getting donations from individuals that are helping them win, and they are happy in their lives and their kids, and everyone's happy.
Right.
It's just a wonderful thing to be. That's what I talk to some people. I say, hey, do you want to help us go to a Final Four and win the national championship? And they may I just like going to the games. Well, it's like you ever go to a game and you go home and after a loss and your wife goes, how was the game? And you're like, oh, it was great. We loved it. It's like, no, if you lose, it's bad. So if you just like going to the games, enjoying the games, if you donate, that will help us win, and more wins will be better.
The post-game traffic's a lot more fun after a win. I'll say that.
Absolutely.
Totally.
I don't get that anywhere near as much.
Right.
Which
So I want to be very clear, and people talk about education. I'll share my number on this phone, on this call. My number is 781-608-0522. If you have any confusion, if you want to donate, you have any questions, you call that number and I will pick up. It is my personal cell phone number.
It's not Joe Hughes's.
That's a Roll Blob exclusive right there.
That's awesome.
So you can call me any time of night. I have the sleep mode on, so you leave a voicemail, But no, I will call you back within 24 hours. I promise you that. So I don't want any confusion. This is a weird time in college sports. We are now paying players. We weren't able to do that before. We have the opportunity to do that because we're invested in it. We don't have to pay for Division I Power 4 football. So we are positioned well, but within the Big East, we are behind. We want to win the Big East. Yep. And that's, that takes everyone involved. Even if it's $10, $25 a month, I know, it's like, what's Netflix now? I think I just got it. It's like $24.99. Yeah. It's like, I get more enjoyment out of Xavier basketball than I do from Netflix.
I would give up Netflix for Xavier basketball national championship for the rest of my life.
We all make sacrifices.
Right.
Kenny, the amount of times that you did the Pat Riley drill, it's like you made sacrifices.
Right.
We're just asking people out there, whatever you're doing, whatever job you have, do it better, make more money, so then you can invest in Xavier basketball. We would love that.
That's easy.
It's tax deductible. It's great. So if you want to get into a different tax bracket, you want to send your standard deduction, your whatever you need to do, your Roth IRA, you want to send it over to us for all the listeners 73 and a half and above. We will we will take it and we will thank you. And anything you need from us, we will do everything in our power to make happen. We have a great benefits chart. If you donate $25,000 a year, you are on a flyaway trip with our team, which is one of the best values I've ever heard of. Because with that 25,000, you get access to different things. You get great tickets, different invites, and you get to fly with the team, sit behind the bench. That's a great value. So, and if you donate $1, that's appreciated too. If you can't donate at all, I totally understand, unless your name is Joe Hughes.
Right. Get a lot of slander on this podcast.
But outside of that,
well, there's a lot riding on Joe donating, because I'm hearing of some other people matching it possibly, and
yeah, we have a former player group chat going right now, and we just need Joe to step up. Kenny has stepped up. Kevin Feeney has stepped up. Johnny Mazza has stepped up.
That was actually the Roll Blob podcast that stepped up.
The Roll Blob podcast stepped up. I mean, look at that.
All for one, baby.
You guys are donating, and I love it. And thank you very much, because it helps us win. And when we do win games, I do really want you to feel like you are a part of it, because you are. You helped us do that. So,
unless Joe Hughes doesn't donate, which you are not a part of it at all, Joe.
Except for Joe Hughes. You are currently not a part of it.
Please. And then we appreciate what you do too. We know how crucial this is, and we know that your guys' role is probably very difficult with how much everything is changing. I do have one more question. This is kind of just from your perspective. Like, what have you seen out of Coach Pitino so far? I know that he understands how important this is as well, and maybe could you speak to some of his vision and maybe what stood out to you so far?
Yeah, no, we're in lockstep. He's been done a great job of meeting with donors this summer. I mean, the amount of different meetings and different phone calls and everything. He's been readily available, and he loves it. And he knows that, hey, if you don't win without great players, so this is the way to get great players. He may get some guys at a discount because we're a great school and great facilities, and he's a great coach. But at the end of the day, we need more money, and if we get more money, then we'll still have to compete. I mean, it's going to be hard. You know how the ball's round, but it bounces different ways. But we need money to compete, and if we are able to get the right funds, then we can get the right players, and that's a big thing too. Is Coach has done a great job of evaluating talent. I trust him with the money.
Yeah.
He had 2 players on New Mexico that they paid them a fraction of what they're currently making now at their new schools after transferring out. And there are some players that we would have loved to have, but we couldn't afford them.
Right. Sure. Yeah, it's tough.
There are players that throughout the year that, hey, you saw us like, oh, this guy's great, he's killing us. We missed out on those players. There are some players that we were $100,000 short, $50,000 short. We missed out on those guys. So that's what we need to really get going. And we have the right coach, right facility, right school, right athletic director.
That's
president. We're all in lockstep. We need to just go.
That's exactly what was just going through my mind as you were talking about just needing that little bit of money to get over the hump there. It's not like we're trying to build something out of nothing and just throwing money at a project that has never been good. We know what the Xavier atmosphere and community and all that looks like when the Xavier basketball team is good. And so it's not like we're trying to rebuild the wheel here. We're literally trying.
Kenny, this is a blue chip stock.
Right.
You get your dividends in happiness,
right,
in joy.
Yeah.
It's like what is important in this life?
Mm-hmm.
Like the relationships that we have that were built through this place, built through winning, built through success. It's like that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
It's like where else would you rather spend your money on? Like this is what it's all about. You want to be a part of winning.
We tell Coop he just goes to Starbucks one less time a day.
Right.
And Xavier gets a 5-star center.
Cool. Come to my house. I'll make you a frappe, chape, latte, whatever you need. I'll make it for you. I'll write your name on the side of the cup. Whatever you need, we'll make it happen.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't mean to offend you since you're from Boston, but the other day,
I love to be offended.
The barista, my full legal name is Cooper, right?
Cooper.
That's how they spelled it. They put AH at the end. I'm like,
I'm not a Mario enemy, dog.
I
Chill
don't.
out.
I don't have an accent.
Yeah.
Like that's
Koopa.
bizarre. But anyways, that what I was gonna say is they say money can't buy happiness. Bullshit. Go to goxavier.com. Donate all for one fund. Pick the sport you want. We've donated to baseball before. For Joe Sullivan listening right now, do it for basketball, men's basketball. I'm sure that's what most of us are
Sure, yeah.
interested
And
in
if
the
you
most.
want to donate to baseball or cheerleading, whatever your intent is, whatever impact you want to make, it does help. So whatever that is. But I know there's a trickle down effect with basketball. You know, our success leads into other teams' success.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely. And we'll put a link to the where to donate in the description of this podcast. So wherever you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple, it'll be there in the description. But
Can we make T-shirts that have a QR code of where to donate on them, and I'll just like wear them everywhere?
sure. Well,
Yeah,
do not scan this. People will obviously scan
they'll
it.
scan. I think it's endless. This is just I'm just an
And you
idea.
can sell those shirts.
Yeah,
I don't know.
absolutely.
It's an endless stream of money. But Joe, thanks so much for sitting down with us and being very open about all of this. And it's 9 p.m. on a Wednesday. You're still, I can see, at the office at Xavier right now. So, you know, when Xavier does get to this upper level of the Big East and wins championships, you're going to be a big reason why. And we're really grateful that you had time to sit down and talk to us.
Well, you guys will be too. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, so real quick before we go, for anybody that's still here, still listening, the Roll Blob podcast has some really big news coming up. There's going to be some announcements in the next few days. We've been in talks with some people. We're really excited about the next chapter of the Roll Blob podcast and what we have planned for this year and into the future. So stay tuned for that. Anybody else got anything?
Just real quick, Joe, you can say the last words, but I just want to say, don't forget, Musketeer Tip-Off is coming up Friday, September 26th. That's at 5:30. That's a free event. That'll be a great way to meet all the new players, see all of them, see Coach Patino. I'm really excited to see what song he walks out to. That's like the thing I look forward to all year. And then Sunday, September 28th, there is a baseball scrimmage, Xavier and Notre Dame. That's a noon game at Prasco Park up in Mason, free to attend. You get free cheese conies. It's great. So hopefully we see some familiar faces out there. And if we don't know you, come say what's up. We'll be there.
And I will bring your money directly to Joe if you give it to me. And Joe Hughes, I'm nervous on your behalf. That's all I got. Your legacy hangs in the balance, my friend.
No doubt.
Joe, thanks for jumping on and talking about this with us.
Thanks, fellas. My pleasure.
Kenny?
Hey, stay blobbing.